Hi everyone, Mitch Jackson, the streaming lawyer, streaminglawyer.com or streaming.lawyer. This is going to be a great show today. We have Mr. Alex Holden, one of the world's most well-respected internet security and hacking experts. Alex will be our guest when he joins us, and thanks everyone for clicking in. When Alex gets here, let me just take a look real quick. I will invite him on, and while I'm inviting Alex on, let me go ahead and give him a proper introduction. And Alex, just accept the link when you're ready and we'll bring you right on. But Alex is one of the world's top internet and computer security experts, hacking experts, dark web experts on the planet. He's credited with the discovery of many high-profile breaches, including Adobe Systems, JP Morgan, and the independent discovery of the Target breach. In 2014, he led Hold Security, which is his company, in their efforts to discover the largest breach of data to date, which I believe was something like 1.2 billion stolen credentials gathered from over 420,000 websites. And I believe this data was being held by Russian hackers. So we're going to be inviting Alex on to join us today. And Alex, I think I sent you a link. Just go ahead and click on it. And we're going to talk about the email hacking of the Democratic National Committee, the DNC. We're going to ask Alex how we can all protect ourselves and our businesses from being hacked. And hopefully bring you guys in. If you'd like to meet Alex and ask him questions, then we're going to be doing that too. In the meantime, I think this is Alex's first time on, let's see, decline the broadcast. This is Alex's first time on Huzza. Hey, Ryan, it's good to see you. And while Alex is clicking links and getting ready to join us, I'm sure he's checking the security. There he is. Got a good video, but I can't hear you. So I'm sure Alex has plenty of security systems set up between the Huzza platform and his office. I'm just going to go out on a limb here. So the audio, Alex, is up on the right side of your Chrome bar. Let me see. And looks like you've joined us twice. So if you click the little guy up on the right, you can select your microphone. If that makes sense. If that makes sense, give me a nod. Give me a thumbs up. Okay. And while Alex is playing around with his audio, because your video looks fantastic, Barb, it's good to see you. Alfredo, it's good to see you. Periscope Ryan Steinelson, it's always good to see you. One of the top live streamers in the United States, according to Huffington Post. So I'll send you another link. Alex, let's see, it looks like he's rebooting. So go ahead and reboot. And when you're here, just say hi in the chat and we'll bring you back in. So Ryan, here's the deal, bud. I want you to get your drone and I want you to show me how to do these videos the right way, okay? Because if you guys aren't following Ryan, please, Ryan, in the chat, put your link if you would, please. Hey, Vicky, it's good to see you. Ryan, put your link in the chat so that people can follow all the cool things that you're doing with live streaming. I mean, he's bringing us a lot of good content, showing us all how to be more efficient live streamers. So I am still waiting for Alex to kick the tires at his end and get everything working correctly. In the meantime, I'm going to, because this is kind of informal, if you guys would like to, let me see if Alex is back yet. I still don't see Alex. Oh, you're welcome, Ryan. If anyone would like to jump in just while Alex is getting his system working at his end, I'd love to have you, Vicky, Ryan. Just let me know down in the chat and I'll send you a link. Otherwise, you know, it's really interesting when you look at what's happened with the DNC. Let's see. Vicky's going to click in and say hi real quick. And we have so much to learn. You know, this is not a political show today. What we're doing is just talking about internet security hacking. I want to talk to Alex about what got him involved with internet security and also what we can all do to protect our systems. And there he is. Let's see if he comes back in. There's Vicky. Hi, Vicky. It's good to see you.
Hi, Mitch. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm going to invite Alex back in, but don't leave.
I'm happy to leave, though. I was just trying to help fill some space for you.
You know what? Nobody does it better than you. That's for sure. Let's see. Alex, you got audio?
Yes, I think I do. Can you hear me now?
Alex, let me introduce you. I can. And let me introduce you to Vicky Finch. Vicky, Alex Holden. Vicky is a very, very strong user when it comes to live streaming in our community. So she was going to jump in and help entertain our audience while you were getting things working at your end.
I was going to sing and dance, but now that you're back, Alex, I'm going to go. No, I wasn't really going to sing and dance. Anyway.
Yeah, I do apologize. Technology is our strong suit only on a different level, not as an end user, unfortunately.
No problem.
We're good. Vicky, thanks. Hopefully we'll have you back in a couple of minutes to ask some questions. Okay?
Absolutely. Bye. Bye, Alex.
Bye-bye.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks, Vicky. So, Alex, while we were waiting for you to join us, I gave you, I think, a proper introduction. I shared with our audience, both live and recorded, some of the hacks that you discovered, very well-known hacks written about all over the world. And the reason I reached out to Alex today, everybody, is to pick his brain a little bit about, what we've been hearing about on the news and to get some tips about how we can all protect our personal and business computer systems, our email accounts, our cloud-based services from getting hacked like the Democratic National Committee, the DNC that we're hearing about on the news all the time. So first of all, Alex, it's good to see you again. The first time I met you was a couple of years ago on a show.
Likewise. Thank you for having me back.
So you've been pretty busy lately, haven't you?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, when it comes to information security, the issues never stop coming. And unfortunately, things that we hear in the news are our concerns on a daily basis.
So for those of you just joining us, I'm talking with, and we're going to be chatting with Alex Holden. We'll be inviting guests in a few minutes, probably in about 10, 15 minutes. And let me just real quick overview Alex, because we have some people joining us a little bit late. Alex is one of the world's top internet security and computer security experts. He's credited with discovering many high-profile breaches, including the Adobe systems at JP Morgan and the Target breach. In 2014, he and his highly skilled team at Hold Security discovered over 1.2 billion credentials being held, I believe, by the Russians, gathered from over 420,000 websites. So we're talking to the guy. Okay, so let's get this show rolling, Alex. In the news has been the DNC, the Democratic National Committee email hack, and then recently, apparently, their systems were hacked again. Without getting into politics, but focusing on computer and technology and security, what's your understanding of what happened to the DNC? And with respect to the most recent hack, was any information taken as far as you know?
Well, I learned about the DNC hacks like everybody else from the news cycle. However, looking at my experience of working with these type of things, I do notice that from DNC, not being political, but being an organization that has a great deal of reputation, and the organization that actually holds quite a bit of personal information about its members, about top government officials. So taking care of this information, like in any company that has secrets, trade secrets, customer information, employee information, should be a paramount effort. We don't know exactly everything that had been taken. Seems like only emails that had been released. But given that the website had been breached recently, given that the emails were stolen, it's possible to conclude that there have been more issues in the past several months or years with these type of breaches.
The last time you and I chatted, which was about a year and a half ago, we talked about you can have the most secure system in the world, but as soon as you have the human element involved, you have human beings clicking on links and loading USB sticks and things like this, that makes it much more challenging for experts like you to protect a company, for the DNC to protect itself, right?
Absolutely. But we're also talking about a different level of maturity of the users. It's understandable that DNC, as any organization, has users that are not exactly computer wizards, that are good in other things than computers. But at the same time, a lot of these users work with US government and understand top secret and other clearances that the government needs to have in order to protect certain information. Doing it in the computing world has to have the same verification.
It's complicated and it's way above my pay grade, Alex, and that's why I reached out to you over the weekend when it hit the fan, shall we say, and everybody's scrambling. Do you have an opinion as to who in fact did hack into the DNC database or their system? If so, are you able to share that with you? And do hackers leave signs? Do they leave a code? Do they leave a symbol to let other people know that that was the person that actually hacked a particular system?
Well, I don't know anything about the actors behind this current breach. However, hackers act on different motives. If this is politically motivated, if it came from, let's say, Russian government, it probably has this surgical SWAT team type of approach, in and out, got information and got out without much evidence. If it had been done by hacktivists, people who actually try to further political agenda, whether they're based in the former Soviet Union, somewhere in Eastern Europe, or around the world, including the United States, they probably would make a statement, because hacktivism is about making a statement, about defending somebody's agenda. At the same time, if it's for-profit hacking, and we know that in some information being released to reporters, especially around WikiLeaks, potentially for-profit, there we probably won't see much evidence. However, there would be some kind of attempt to sell this in the open market, on the black market, obviously. So I guess the jury's still out on what exactly happened, how, but in multiple scenarios, there would be different clues and leads to follow for the investigators.
I'm speaking with Alex Holden, one of the foremost security experts on the planet when it comes to computer systems, computer hacking, and dark web, black web activities. And that's why I've asked Alex to be on the show today, especially in light of the recent news regarding the DNC hacking incident, which is being reported on the major news bureaus as having Russian hackers or somebody affiliated with Russian hackers behind it. Let's back up just a second. So it's safe to say that your company hasn't been retained to deal with that particular hacking incident. Is that true? Or are you allowed to discuss that with us?
I can tell you what
Okay.
I don't know, and that's exactly
Okay.
it. We are not working right now.
Okay. And I get the confidentiality issues that do come up, and that's why I want to be respectful to you. If I ask you something that you can't talk about, just let me know. But I'll tell you what does interest a lot of people. And when I first shared late last night that I was going to be having you on the show today, people are interested in your background. Some of my friends have seen you into the different magazines. Some have seen you interviewed. If you go to Alex's website, which is holdsecurity.com, they have a page with all of the interviews and hacking incidents that Alex's company's been involved with. Alex, what got you involved in this particular profession? Can you share your story with us? Because I think it's fascinating.
Well, from my perspective, I started this whole journey into computers over 2 decades ago, where I was actually interested in technology because it was just evolving. And me being naturally curious and trying to be an engineer by default, I was actually trying to figure out how things not only working, but how do they break? What makes them break? So I got really interested in security and trying to figure out what are the interesting, unusual things about the programs, software, websites that we all use. So when I started getting more involved in this, my company, which started back in 2010, was actually geared on figuring out what we need to do to make computers more secure. In many cases, our customers were hit by hackers, and in many cases, they were asking not only where is my data, but who took it. why did it happen to me? Who targeted? And in order to answer that, my accent and my background being from former Soviet Union actually played a good role in it, because I understood some of the kind of driving forces behind some of the Eastern European hackers. And with the security background, I was actually able to investigate and help a lot of our clients to get out of very sticky security situations. Since then, not only we do auditing and fixing security problems, but we build out a team, a multinational team to help companies to deal with not only security issues, but hackers, people behind the keyboards that actually do the damage.
And for those of you joining us, we're speaking with internet security expert, global expert, Alex Holden of holdsecurity.com. I'll be opening up the chair. If people would like to ask a question, please use the Q&A up at the top on your platform on the right side of your screen, or let me know in the chat that you'd like to hop on and ask a question, because the more people, the better. You mentioned, Alex, understanding the motive or the reason that we may have some hackers, why they do what they do, because of growing up in that region, what have you. What are the reasons behind hacking, and what can we do as potential? Well, what are the reasons behind why people hack?
There seems to be four major reasons. One is really government-sponsored hacking, and that's done for a variety of political, economic reasons on the government level. We've all seen these type of breaches with currently with potential DNC, Anthem breach, OPM breach, just to name a few over the last couple of years, also including Sony Pictures breach, where it was very based on political agenda. As I mentioned, there is also big amount of hacktivism, and unfortunately, groups like ISIS, that's what they involved in. They try to further their social, political, economic agenda of one group through destroying assets of people or other groups. Then the biggest by far is a for-profit group. Hackers usually living in much more poor countries. They trying to make more money by stealing from countries where average person is much better off than they are. So for them to steal a couple $100 from us seems to be a huge gain. And that's coming from South Africa, that's coming from Eastern Europe, it's coming from China, and coming from Southern America. So lots of different groups. The last group that probably is most malicious and most overt is the revenge hackers. Revenge is obviously can be taken by multiple groups aforementioned, but definitely revenge can be from a past employee, from ex-spouse or ex-significant other, or anybody who wronged you in any way.
You know, I've got a show coming up in a couple of weeks where I'll be chatting with an expert on revenge porn, on revenge hacking and things like that, where you've got everyday people using the internet to cause harm to past girlfriends or boyfriends or lovers. And it's a little bit different than what you're talking about, but I'd like to invite everybody to join us in a couple of weeks. It's at TheShow.live, because it's going to be a fascinating conversation, and it does play off what you just said. Alex, we have a lot of very well-known live streamers in our audience, and they'll be watching the recorded version too. And one of my friends, Periscope Ryan Steinolfson out of San Diego, asked, what exposure do we have as live streamers to the hacking? Does this type of platform, the live streaming platform, whether it's Periscope, Facebook Live, and some of the other platforms, are there things that we should be thinking about or more aware of because of the way the code's written, because of backdoors? I mean, you tell me, does this raise the level of our ability to be hacked, or is it business as usual?
It's a public exposure, and I guess we have to live with that as public people and speaking in the media like this. But at the same time, you as streamers and people who actually have their voice heard, the one of the possible worst outcomes is somebody hijacking your show to further some kind of agenda, and that may damage reputation of a streamer. It may damage other reputations because whatever the other person would take over, or there may be some kind of a monitoring scheme. So it's a reputational issue where you have to control what's happening live. Always have kind of your finger on the off button to make sure that nothing bad happens. And unfortunately for hackers, in many cases, especially with financial overtones, to be able to take over broadcasts like this or hold it hostage, so to speak, they definitely have motivations, financial or some other, and I would be on the lookout. But that's something that we have to accept as a part of our everyday life, I guess.
I was on yesterday with police officer Mike Byers, who's a friend of mine here in Southern California. He's very active on social media, and he shared the risk of people live streaming. Let's just say if you're live streaming every day from the same spot at the local mall and you're a teenager, there may be child predators out there that may know where to find you. They recognize that store, that shop, and you could be subjecting yourself to a kidnapping type of scenario. As you just said, we're showing more information about our lives in real time via live streaming. And so people and parents need to be careful about that, right?
Absolutely. And also keep in mind that they usually say that if you go out in public, your picture gets taken hundreds of times a day, whether you want it or not. You in the background of many different film rolls. So that all goes out on the internet, and not only taking adults, but minors. So predators actually watch for it. They watch not only the people who post the pictures, but locations, geotagging. So on Facebook, for example, people tag that they were checking into some location, and some predators actually watch locations for the same minors to appear from time to time.
You know, I noticed over in the comments, Periscope Ryan mentioned that I might be able to take over his show. What he doesn't realize is things happen this quickly. We've already taken over his show, haven't we, Alex? There's nothing he can do. Alex and I are controlling your computer system right now, Ryan. So just go out surfing and forget about working for the rest of the day. Let's talk about that for a second, Alex. I think a lot of us are concerned. How can we protect our business computer systems, whether it's in-house or in the cloud? Are there some basic tips that you can share with all of us on how we can more safely engage on the internet and protect our business trade secrets, our confidential list, and things like that?
Absolutely. In many cases, I suggest people take a look at the electronic security, let alone their physical security. For example, we all carry keychains with us. We don't have a single key that opens our garage door, our house door, and our car doesn't start our car. So we have multiple keys. Therefore, we kind of used to inconveniences of dragging, some cases, dozens of different keys to get into different places. At the same time, people on the internet who potentially expose more of the personal financial information via single user ID and password tend to not follow the same idea. The idea of user ID and password being a key to something is very simple to understand. To have multiple keys on our keychain physically is also common sensing, but using it in the cyberspace, same user ID, same password, in 10, 20 different places, it doesn't make sense. My post mailbox and my office door, different key, and I'm okay with it. That's number one. Number two, you look at software patches. We all get inundated by Microsoft, Adobe, and a whole bunch of other software packages that bug you almost every day. Please patch me, please update me. They do it on purpose, so we need to fix these issues. Software inherently is flawed and needs improvement. If you look at the last 20 years of software history, you see a great way of improvement. You need to give it more time to get better. So we actually have to not swipe it away and say, hey, maybe do it another day when I'm not busy, but we actually have to embrace it. Then we also control great many systems. During our day, we don't log into one application or one system. We, in many cases, do multiple times. And in many cases, we don't take enough time to customize, to make it our own, to get all the security features in place. For example, Facebook has a great many security features. Your email has great many security features. We use only a small portion of them because, unfortunately, creators of these services think that the rest of these options would be inundating users with too much responsibility. Yeah. But if we actually investigate it, especially when we have quite a bit to lose, because it may be tied to your business, maybe tied to your personal reputation, customize it. Make sure you understand all security features, not the only ones that are being presented to you on the very initial sign up of a service, but actually try to protect yourself more to what degree that you need and to the degree that service allows you to.
I think that's so important for our audience to hear. I'm speaking with Alex Holden, who's a globally well-recognized internet and computer system security expert. We had a case, Alex, where some trade secrets were taken from one company. I was representing one of the parties, and long story short, once we found out who did it, we took his deposition, he was able to go in through the router of the company. He said that, and I don't really understand all the details, but maybe it applies to people watching. He said the routers that are sold, I think it was a Netgear router, they come with a default username or password, and the company never changed that. So it was really easy for him to use software to somehow like figure out exactly what the default settings were, and then from there he was able to access the system. Is that easy for experienced hackers to do? And it's like you just said, it's pretty important for us to change the default settings of our routers and our software programs, right?
Precisely. And from our perspective, we actually hear a lot about these stories. Whether a disgruntled employee who still knew the user ID and password for a virus network, or somebody passing by, or a hacker found an easy prey. The point being is that hackers actually scan the internet. Now technology is so quick and so efficient that hackers don't have to point at you. They can point at the country, they can point at the entire internet, they can point at the internet provider, and that's all a click of a button for them. So for them to find the lowest hanging fruit is very easy. So don't be that lowest hanging fruit. At the same time, you also want to make sure that when you get something as a piece of network gear, you find a qualified professional to configure it. Anything that comes in off the shelf is easy to use. And if it's easy to use, it's easy to abuse because the instructions for use are being available online. And therefore, instructions for abuse also being available within the same document.
It's I've watched firsthand how it just devastated a company because they didn't change the initial parameters. Like you just said, it was easy to use, so it was easy to abuse. Have you had any experience with the cars and the computer systems in cars, with automobiles being hacked? Whether it's you've probably seen it on the news. I mean, what's going on with that? Is that something we need to be concerned with?
We definitely should be concerned about that because as more technology comes into our cars and make it very user-friendly, at the same time, it creates these links between our vehicles and the internet. Several years ago, there was a big story about Chrysler and their car hackings. But it's not the only issue. We see in many cases software updates being available over the internet, pushing right into our cars. Right. Our GPS coordinates, information that can be taken from a car or sent to the car. And that definitely may cross the line, may actually affect the vehicle performance. And if anything, it may create an unnecessary distraction when we are driving. Because even if you can blast loud music out of your stereo, in the particular moment, you can cause a crash, especially if a person is operating a vehicle at a high speed.
Another issue, Ross, thanks for stopping by, everyone. Follow Ross Brand over on the right. He's really leading the charge with all of our live streamers, Alex, and he's doing good stuff on live streaming and on the internet. Another issue I've heard talked about, Alex, with respect to software updates in our automobiles is when we drive into the garage, oftentimes our automobiles will connect to our Wi-Fi, or there's a direct connection from the provider when you buy a vehicle, and hackers can actually figure out where you're traveling to almost like hacking into the GPS database, and they know where you've been, they know where you're going, they know when you're at work, they know when you're at home, and because of that, they can plan their criminal activity around your schedule that's readily available to them. Now, I know this is probably small potatoes in your world, but for those of us where everything that means anything to me other than my family, it's here at the office or at the house, you know? And is there any way to protect ourselves from that? Are there internet security programs that we can use in our automobiles, like Norton Security or McAfee or something like that, to help protect ourselves from hackers?
Well, I can actually tell you that a lot of car manufacturers are trying to do the right thing. Compared to several years ago, they are actually changing their mode of operation from just stuffing features into a car without properly testing them for security, by actually exploring security options. However, I want to note another thing is that our phones become a very powerful tool, because right now they can start a car, they can unlock a car, and they can do the same thing to your house. So hackers in many cases right now, and the cybercrime for mobile devices is very prevalent outside of the United States, and is starting to make its way here as well. But hackers are currently able to take over your phone, and if your phone controls your car and your home, first of all, they know where you are physically, if you are inside the house or not. Second of all, they would know where you are if you're driving your vehicle or not. So we've seen hackers trying to venture into an area where they actually start auctioning off access to the cars on the black market, saying to a physical thief within the vicinity, saying that I can unlock a vehicle 2 blocks away, and the owner is too far away for you to worry. Would you pay me X number of dollars, and I'll unlock this car for you within the next 2 minutes? Same can happen to your house, which has your family, has your valuables, and everything else.
Well, because now with our homes, we have the electronic front door locks that are available that we can unlock using our smartphones. And I would imagine, Alex, if I can unlock it using my smartphone, a bad guy could probably do it parked in front of my house after I leave for the day, right?
That's possible, and it can be also done via internet, including turning off your video surveillance monitoring and everything. So right now, protection of your mobile devices, installing antivirus and other protection tools on your phones, becoming more and more prevalent, because currently it's not being done as a general practice.
Let's switch directions just for a second. And earlier in our conversation, you mentioned ISIS or ISIL, however you want to pronounce it. How come hackers like Anonymous or governmental hackers, maybe through the United States, how come they're not out just completely shutting down ISIS websites with DOS attacks or something like that? Isn't it possible using technology to just shut down what they're doing online, or is that more fiction than fact?
I think there are definitely attempts. I'm not sure about the government sponsored defense technologies, but mostly around groups like Anonymous. They definitely doing enough damage to ISIS and other similar groups. However, with electronic protection that we can afford to our companies, unfortunately, it works the other way. ISIS can build their systems in areas that of the world not accessible to our law enforcement, and they can be put in cloud, which makes it extremely difficult to attack. For us not to have enough resources to take down cloud, and keep in mind that it sits in the cloud next to legitimate applications and users. So in many cases, attack against one malicious website to everybody may take down a lot of legitimate business. So it's really a war out there. Well, ISIS, Syrian Electronic Army, Jordanian Electronic Army, they are doing damage to our electronic assets. Hackers on like Anonymous doing some damage to them. The bullets are flying, and there are victims on both sides, unfortunately.
The digital bullets are flying, but I was just curious as to why Anonymous, for example, hasn't just completely shut everything down like they said they were. And I think you answered my question. It's not always that easy. They've got internet protection too. But you mentioned the cloud. You mentioned the cloud, and a lot of us, all of our applications now, when I first started practicing, Alex, it was before the internet. I mean, as we know it. I mean, the fax machine was the fanciest tool in town. And then we got servers and we bought software and everything's in-house. Fast forward 20 years, 25 years, and now everything's in the cloud. And it's very convenient. We can work from home. All of our data is available wherever I am, whenever I need it. But is it secure? Should we worry? Should a lawyer worry about the confidentiality of his or her client's data stored in the cloud? Or generally speaking, is it actually more secure in the cloud than it would be in my office? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's two sides of an issue. Depends on your security at home and depends on the security of your cloud provider. A lot of things depend on you. For example, as I talked before, assigning good passwords. Not to pick on lawyers, but they're brilliant.
You can pick on us. We're fun to pick on. Go ahead.
You can quote Latin cases from 20, 30 years ago, but unfortunately some lawyers cannot remember a 7-character password. So that's one of the challenges that we see. Bad passwords or something assigned not specific to the data that they are trying to protect. So that cloud would not save you, your home computer would not save you. It's just a bad practice.
Okay.
So that's something that needs to be eliminated overall. However, from the rest of it, cloud seems to be more secure because they have more resources. But just because we get somebody saying that this is secure, don't take their word for at its value. There are a lot of different security safeguards and security disciplines. For example, there is a SOC certification, different levels of certification for data centers where the data is residing. There are certain certifications for cloud computing. So looking at physical security of your storage unit, for example, where you're going to be storing your stuff, is kind of akin to looking at your cloud provider. Make sure that where you the place where you're putting your data actually has proper things done as far as assuring you about their security. We saw one of the largest breaches several years ago for a limo service that was catering to about 10 million different customers. They were just a cloud provider for limo services. And their security statement just started with, trust us, your data is secure. That was their beginning of statement, and the rest of it was quoted from manual for one of the firewalls, word for word. Unfortunately, they got breached, and there is not much of an assurance was offered on that website. And unfortunately, we see that not only on such major scale, but we see it on a daily basis as well. Hackers know that the cloud is much easier place to find lots of data than on individual computers.
And I guess that makes sense. I've never really thought about it that way, but it makes complete sense. Vicky Fitch asked about applications such as LastPass. Do they work? Is that something we should be incorporating into our everyday lives? And then the second part of my question, Alex, is maybe you could share some password recommendations. How can we create a password? How long should a password be? How many characters? But starting back with Vicky's question, do programs like LastPass work?
Absolutely. They are convenient. They're easy to use and easy to remember. They store data inside of them extremely securely, and all you need to have is a single key to open another keychain. So it's convenient for the most part. If you use it on your phone and you lose your phone, you have to go through a couple extra steps, and it's extremely inconvenient. But outside of emergency situations, you actually can use applications like this for great success. We see a lot of, especially business executives, professionals, even IT professionals, use these type of applications on a daily basis to quite a bit of success. In some cases, you still need to remember passwords, especially in the corporate environment where nobody's going to remind you. So setting up a good complex password is rather easy, but it's not on our forefront. Picking a dictionary word is easy. Most people that we see, like most average password, depends on the frequency you have to change it. So, right now people probably have set the password to summer 2016. In a couple months, they're going to be fall of 2016, and then it's going to be winter, and so on and so forth. But make sure that when you create passwords, they're not specific to you or your locations. In some cases, use phrases, capitalization, special characters. Put funny words not only in letters and numbers, but also into symbols. And put a smiley face at the end of your password if you want to, or frowny face depending how you feel. But something that would be complex enough that would not be in anybody's dictionary, anybody's first guess. And also make sure that all the passwords are different. Because if you use the same PIN code, for example, or same key for all your boxes, for your deposit boxes, somebody steals that key, they get everywhere. Yeah. Same thing for your banks, same thing for all your social media. Diversify, and that's one of the biggest and easiest things you can do.
Great tips, Alex. Really appreciate it. And in the last couple of minutes of our show, what I'd like to do is go sideways just a bit. For those of you joining us live now or on the recording later, I'm speaking with Alex Holden, who's one of the premier internet security computer hacking experts on the planet, and he's been nice enough to share some really good tips with us. We've talked about the DNC email hack. We've talked about how you can protect your computers and your cloud-based systems, both at home and at work. But there's something that's really fascinating all of us now, Alex. A lot of my friends, not the lawyers, because we're still trying to remember our passwords, okay? And you're spot on with that, okay? But for some of us that enjoy technology, what we're really excited about is virtual reality, is augmented reality, whether it's putting on the goggles, whether it's putting ourselves into a computer system where it's a virtual reality type of scenario. But with those two new quickly emerging platforms, I think do come some security issues. I don't know if you've given this any thought. I don't want to put you on the spot, but are there any security issues that we need to be thinking about when using VR, when using AR, over the next 12 to 24 months?
Absolutely, and actually, this is one of the big themes right now in thinking of what can be done. Oh, okay. So, just to give you one quick example, not exactly about AR and VR, but about hackers coming up with new original concepts of abuse. Many of us wear Fitbits. Or similar watches that actually track our heart rate, number of steps we make, and everything just like that. And we noticed that hackers actually been getting information, they gathering information from watches like that, and they've been trying to market and sell it to each other. So we didn't understand what's the valuable data that would be in a watch like this, because yes, I move way too little for what I must, but that's about it.
Right.
Well, one hackers explained, and it's rather kind of sad and unusual. They actually watch for the patterns of movement for people, especially for business people who travel a lot. Some of these watches have your GPS locations, and when you are, for example, traveling, and for example, at 1 a.m. your heart rate goes up, but your steps are not, they make certain conclusions. And there have been very successful blackmail attempts, according to these hackers, for especially business travelers who have exhibited unusual patterns. We see same kind of approach from hackers taking into VR, taking into virtual reality, and getting persons' habits, getting persons' personal information, very personal information, because as we merge more cyber world with our physical, we are imparting bits and pieces of ourselves, our behavior, our traits, and even our fears and interests into virtual reality devices, into those worlds. We can see that to a certain degree, that can be used against us. It can be introduced as additional weapon. And with AR, there are potentials of introducing things that would be potentially harmful to a person's health by even making that trip unusually. Because if you're looking at something and look at Pokemon Go, it unfortunately has its own side effects, unfortunately.
Oh, absolutely. That's a whole nother show. But you said something, and I hope I'm reading between the lines correctly, but you're an executive, you're a presidential candidate, and somebody taps into your Apple Watch and notices your heartbeat at 2 in the morning going up to 160 when you're supposed to be sleeping, implying you're probably with somebody you shouldn't be with, doing something you shouldn't be doing because your family's back home and they're not out on the campaign trail with you or in the business deal. I've never thought about that. And so what you're saying is if hackers have access to this information, they can then use it for blackmail, for espionage, whatever it might be, right?
Well, Mitch, I never thought about it as well until hackers told us. So they did think about it. And their claim is that they actually profited from that.
Well, along those lines, when you start talking about, blackmail, you start talking about hackers getting into the personal data of people and using it for all the wrong reasons. I think one of the questions that jumps out at me, Alex, maybe I watch too much TV and too many shows on Netflix, but are you ever worried about your security? I mean, I would think some of these hackers are really bad people. And if you go in and you discover 1.2 billion stolen credentials, if you open up the lid on the Adobe Systems or JP Morgan case, are you ever worried about ramifications with outing the bad guys?
Absolutely. That's why we try not to out them directly. So when we out certain bad guys, we leave details for law enforcement. Okay. So we share their identities, for example, with law enforcement. We usually in the media define them vaguely. And at the same time, we are working on the defense side. So I'm extremely worried about my well-being, obviously, my family, and my company, and all the employees. But at the same time, we are not directly engaging into an offense. And that's one hopefully saving graces for us because hackers are known to be extremely malicious on a personal level and really without much stoppers for them.
Any final advice for our viewers, for me, over the next 12 months, based upon the current level of security services, based upon the software as we know it, the latest Apple operating system, the latest Windows 10 operating system, is there anything we need to pay particular attention to over the next, let's just say, year to help keep ourselves safe based upon how the industry is developing?
I usually want to mention a simple fact that many of us play fantasy sports, for example, fantasy football. And we spend way too much time learning about our lineup and also about the lineup of our opponents. We spend a lot of time researching, and we don't think about that in many of our personal, real-life situations. What I usually recommend for people to take some time to do research about cybersecurity. It's understandably scary. There's a lot of doom and gloom in the news. Even in conversations like this, we don't talk about victories. We talk about really losses on the security front. So I invite each one of the listeners here to spend at least 10-20 minutes every month thinking about the virtual security. Am I using the best passwords I could? Is everything I'm doing secure, or I'm trying to just edge by this, but doing minimum what I need to do? Think about cybersecurity. Educate yourself. This is the key in today's world because a lot of different changes around the world will be affecting us from angles that we don't even expect. And it's very difficult to say what would be the next big thing. Nobody predicted DNC, for example, 3 or 4 months ago. So we need to be more cognizant about cybersecurity. And this cognizance, this level of education will pay off eventually as time goes on. We're going to be much smarter consumers of electronic goods when it comes to cybersecurity.
There you have it, everybody. From the lips of one of the global experts on cybersecurity, Alex Holden. Alex, I've shared your company's website link down on the right side of the chat. It's holdsecurity.com. If anyone has any follow-up questions, should they go to your website, or is there a better way for people to get in touch with you for security reasons?
Absolutely. Through website works. You can also email me at aholden@holdsecurity.com directly.
All right. Well, Alex, I really appreciate you jumping on with me again. It's been too long, and you've brought a massive amount of value both to our live audience and our recorded audience who will watch us later on. If there's anything I can ever do for you, just reach out and let me know. I'll probably reach out, and I need some help with remembering my passwords, but that's probably a lost cause. So, but listen,
sounds good. You probably already know what your passwords are.
You probably already know what they are. Exactly. Alex, thank you for everything. Hey, everybody, thanks for stopping by and joining us today. My name's Mitch Jackson, streaming.lawyer, with my guest, Alex Holden of holdsecurity.com. You guys have a great Tuesday and make the rest of today your masterpiece. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Alex. Take care.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.